Hello and welcome to MLW Con-Fusion. I'm your host Rob Cameron, bringing you all that you may or may not need to know about Major League Wrestling and its television programming. Or at least, I used to. You see, I was planning on reviewing Kings of Coliseum when the unthinkable happened. MLW chose to put the World Heavyweight Championship on Matt Riddle. Goodness, I said his name. No cutesy nicknames. No really, really bad Cockney rhyming slang. I want to make sure that the SEO optimizing robots hear this speech, this tirade, to make sure it's easily accessible. Now, anyone who listens to this podcast is aware of my Matt Riddle allergy. Frankly, I don't have time in my day for people accused of sexual assault. And in Mr. Riddle's case, 3 different accusations of sexual assault. And for those of you who are not aware, there are 3 different allegations of sexual assault, and one of those allegations includes domestic violence as well. And that's just the legal issues. That's not even counting the drama that otherwise swirl around him, seemingly at all times. So I'm going to throw out the allegations are just that, allegations at this time. No formal charges have been brought his way in the past 4 years that these have been general knowledge at this point. The legal system and the court of public opinion, however, are 2 very different things. And the fact is, though, that there are many wrestlers who have achieved a modicum of celebrity with no such allegations to their name. And yet Riddle gets to have the World Heavyweight Championship. So I'm going to drop some more information. Use this information as you like. I also implore you to check out RAINN.org. The RAINN website, that's RAINN, is filled with information about assault with statistics and resources, including why a case may not even make it into the legal system at all. But this really isn't about Matt Riddle specifically. I mean, okay, it technically is, but, I understand that he's going to take money from whomever's willing to pay him. And I probably would too, regardless of the situation. However, Riddle is merely a vessel, a symptom of a larger issue within professional wrestling, and to a lesser extent, most of corporate America. There is no accountability, no attempts to explain behaviors. You're just supposed to accept things without this explanation. And really, at a certain level, any statement would be sufficient. It's not hard to actively acknowledge something, even if the answer to that is something most folks may not agree with, or, even like. But at least it shows you made some effort. MLW's effort in this situation mostly consists of telling us that Matt Riddle is, totally the greatest wrestler ever, and he's back to fulfill his dream. However, we'll ignore that he willingly left this dream behind 6 years ago for a better opportunity, and he's only back chasing that dream again because that better opportunity went away. But really, that's not important to this current rant. That's just MLW created right there. But like anything else controversial, MLW has ignored it and hoped that the firestorm goes away. And though I will argue, if you check out some of the stats, it seems that the fans are the ones who have gone away, with views being nearly 100,000 less than they were at this time last year. No comments about Riddle's past, no comments about locker room safety or, policy. There's nothing, no statement. The closest thing we got to a statement was when former MLW commentator Matt Stryker, who had said things that could be paraphrased as, "I don't care what he's done. You don't allow someone with the talent of Matt Riddle remain a free agent." Which, this is ironic coming from Stryker, considering that he kind of faded away from existence after his own allegation popped up. But I digress. Whether Stryker said this on his own accord, or was fed lines similar to this, it's unknown. However, MLW also chose to not acknowledge Stryker's statements or the controversy that surrounded him, and Stryker has not appeared on MLW programming since. Though the irony of Stryker being let go due to his allegations is noted, and of course ironic. But the most damning thing is that MLW can't bring itself to acknowledge any shortcomings and communicate anything except press releases that implied that they are super awesome. Communication is key in most facets of life, and people would be more accepting of bad news if it were even attempted to be communicated. And really, that's all we want is some sort of acknowledgement, at this point, and we never get it. We are just left on red whenever we bring anything up. And it's not uncommon, though, for a wrestling company to utilize problematic wrestlers. All the major companies do. I could pick out people of varying forms of abuse, whether it's domestic violence, sexual assault allegations, etc., 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 in all the major companies. But the difference between this situation and other companies the size of Major League Wrestling and larger is that while employing their own questionable wrestlers, they're not taking those questionable roster members and making them their world champion. Well, at least not yet. We'll see what the year brings for a unnamed company coming up here. But again, it's one thing for Thoroughly Bitching Wrestling, TBW. I'll sell the naming rights for that for $5, by the way. But it's totally different for Thoroughly Bitching Wrestling, who runs only 3 towns in Stark County, Illinois, to do this. But another for a national company that is supposed to be vying for the number 3 position of promotion. There we go. The number 3 promotion, number 3 spot in the country. And it's also staggering that not only that, in this case, the company would put their main championship on the questionable individual, but the level of controversy they've caused and the severity of the allegations. This isn't a one-off. This wasn't one lone person barking on Twitter. There are a handful of allegations. And it is literally like MLW is calling us marks by doing this, and that us marks will watch whatever we are told. This may have been true 25 years ago, when we didn't really have much in the line of wrestling options. And even if we had the options of wrestling, we didn't have a great way to access our wrestling. But today, the combination of YouTube and any number of streaming services gives us all the wrestling that we can handle. And for this, and several other reasons, it's really been in vogue to dump on MLW. MLW has become the new LOL TNA, and the phrase MLW is going to MLW is tossed around whenever there's a technical gaffe or the company brings in somebody kind of weird and out there like Eric Bischoff. And it's been hard. It's been hard to be a fan of MLW because of these things. And I've been telling people to stick through it. This podcast has chosen to focus on the positives and kind of while keeping it real, acknowledge that, shows are decent overall. Creative is terrible. Well, yeah, but, the bell to bell is some of the best you'll find over the course of a 2-hour period. The video packages are actually top notch. They have a young, hungry roster of up and comers. They were even the first to bring in luchadores from CMLL in terms of mainstream wrestling media. But with Riddle as champion, what do I tell the doubters now? What do I tell my wife? What do I tell the women in my life whose statistics say that 1 in 3 of them are survivors of assault? What kind of message does this send? It's a message that someone who wrestles good is more important than the physical and emotional safety of the performers and the fans. And this is something that I can't justify as a fan, a content creator, or let's face it, a decent human being. So what does this mean? What does it mean for the MLW podcast to be raging out at MLW? And for me, it means that we're going to have to go through the long road of reflection and change. And this process will not be instantaneous. But in the short term, I'm going to guarantee 3 changes. 1. MLW Con-Fusion will not review any event featuring Matt Riddle as a competitor. And this is for MLW, and this is for the Indie Spotlight. If Matt Riddle is a scheduled competitor on the show, I'm not touching it. I'm not reviewing it. I'm not doing what I did before and would just skip over that match. Like, we're just not touching that match. Persona non grata is what this is. 2. All merchandise sales during the current MLW Championship reign will be donated to charity, preferably one that focuses on victims of abuse. Current front runner is Family Resources, based out of Davenport, Iowa, who do work with families that are survivors. Also, actually do work with foster care and adoption specialists as well. So they're kind of a catch-all organization in the Midwest. So that is probably where the money is going to go in the short term. If that changes, I'm going to be fully transparent and let you guys know. So if you go to the MLW Con-Fusion social media, you'll find actually, like, you can find links to Family Resources, at least in the short term. I mean, it'll get buried eventually because I tweet, I Blue Sky, etc., but it's there. And then digressing back to the list, number 3, MLW Con-Fusion will start the process of rebranding, moving away from MLW as an entity at this time. So, you know, as I said, it's going to take some time as I figure out, like, how we're going to properly full-on rebrand without just, nuking everything, because I'm not going to lie, like, I'm being a wimp on this front, and I've tried to build this brand for a number of years now, but I need to pivot, and that is something I'm going to do. It's not something you do overnight, unfortunately, but looking at this as an overall positive. And it's also positive that there is plenty of professional wrestling out there to watch, often without problematic individuals performing. There are myriads of athletes with stories to tell about the magic of professional wrestling, and MLW Con-Fusion will continue to bring those wrestling stories from all over the country, regardless of what changes are going to be made to the name, the logos, and the themes of the podcast. MLW Con-Fusion will continue to be the last bastion of independent wrestling. So to those who will continue to take this journey with me, I thank you. The people who are going to, get us over the hump, I thank you. I thank all the listeners who have followed me up until this point and given me their support. Now let's get ready to enjoy professional wrestling. P.S. I still hate Manders. That's not going to change. He's rent-free in his head, baby. Yeah. MLW Con-Fusion is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. MLW Con-Fusion is part of the Urban Wrestling Network, and you can check them out and check out the Major League Pod on YouTube at Urban Wrestling NW. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is also helpful. Word of mouth of advertisement is very important for small podcasts such as this. Social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter and Instagram are at the Nova of Cass, TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is at MLW Con-Fusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual chip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, you can go to patreon.com/Casanova, CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Alex McCarthy, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Con-Fusion podcast on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the description to find some affiliate links for, WWE merch, coffee machines, ice makers, and much more. For business inquiries such as ads and sponsorships, please email rzkammer, that's Kamerer, at comcast.net. Thank you for listening.